What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Andre King coming at you today. And earlier today, I saw this post on LinkedIn and I've been searching. But I couldn't find it. But long story short, someone said that the CCNA is actually harder than the CCNP. They probably posed it like a question, but the thing that got me was in the comments, it was probably 85, 90% of the people were like, yeah, it is. Because once you get a job and you start working CCNP, you know it. I'm like, what really popped in my mind, I had to sit here, think, and calm down, is not that it's literally an old school versus new school thing, but I really think because the current exam, the form, the flavor is totally different than how it was back in the day. And so I really just, it took me back to the times of really being in Afghanistan and taking all those exams. And so the CCNA, I was at, well, for all of them, I was at Camp Bastion, or AKA Leatherneck, supporting the Marines. And to take that exam, we actually had to drive off base unsecured. I remember there were some kind of drugs hashish there, and they always say don't mess with that, keep going. Remember the barbed wire fence, and then there was this little building with, of course, the cellular antenna right beside it. And and so I split my CCNA up. Many of you out there may know, ICND 1 and 2. And from memory, ICND 1 was really 70-80% was just concepts of subnetting, basic theory, things like that. You really didn't even need to have ever had logged into a switch, a router, or anything like that. And it was ICND 2 where those principles and questions about interfaces, user mode versus priv exec, different protocols, etc., were actually there. So if you had no experience, never really saw a switch in your life, like physically, then it was advisable to just split it up. And the thing for us back then that really happened was once you get that first pass underneath your wings, if you keep going, you're aggressive, that confidence is kind of right there. Because, knees, legs, shaking, tapping, for many. A lot of you out there think you're hard and everything like that. But the more exams you get under your belt, the easier it becomes. I know a lot of folks say they're not good or great at taking exams. May be true for some. I think a lot of folks can kind of psych themselves out. But this email right here was my aunt, who was deployed downrange as well. I actually told her, my aunt Cindy, didn't pass. T-shoot out the gate, excuse my French, handed me my you-know-what. I stayed to see how I would do on the final two sections. I think I did well. Score report should be coming in a few hours. We had to wait for ours. We didn't get it printed out right there all the time. I'll give it another shot in a few months. Talking to this guy about a job in Germany. Need a break from Afghanistan. And so, like I said, this, of course, was, now we're speaking to the CCNP side. And some folks today might be like, what the hell is T-shoot? Well, actually, this is the book that I use right here. I don't ever really open these CDs in the back. But this was the T-shoot exam, 642, 832. And then this, of course, was the CCNP route book and exam. And if you put them up beside each other, I mean, just barely, you can see that the T-shoot is a little bit smaller. I mean, the switch probably gave some folks problems, but the switching exam for most of us, we knocked that one out pretty quick. And I'm not gonna lie, the route gave me some problems too. I think I failed both of them at least once. One of them I failed twice, but I mean, it was brutal because, again, you got to think, this isn't to digress. I won't go too long-winded there. But the contract that I was on with Rockwell Collins from out of Beaufort, Georgia, Lawrenceville, I think it was Lawrenceville, right outside north of Atlanta. They had a gentleman's handshake with another company, telecommunications. I forgot what the C stood for, maybe communication system, TCS, to where Rockwell Collins on this base had the help desk positions, I think IA, and maybe something else. And then TCS had the SATCOM, the SWAN, and the network positions. And so it was like a gentleman's handshake where you couldn't talk between the two. They couldn't poach each other's folks, and they wouldn't bid on each other's contracts. So long story short, once I got all of these, like to get a networking job, I had to leave Rockwell Collins because they just didn't have any contracts or wouldn't bid on it. And shout out to everybody out there that worked for either one of those companies. Kevin Arnold, the manager there, was a great boss. He actually sat downrange with us. A lot of managers I know don't visit the employees downrange over there. But like I said, I digress for that. But the point that I was making really is just we couldn't get our hands on. But luckily, there they let me go sit as I became more tenured. I think I was building a Windows 7 image for the troops downrange, and but they let me sit right across the street sometimes with the network guys. Now I couldn't get hands-on permissions, not to say need to know, but my job, I couldn't type anything, but I could watch the guys. I could walk to the different ITN shelters, MDFs, watch them cable, etc. And so I learned quite a lot just through observation. But still, it's not the same as like which a lot of you folks out there probably are knowing or going through. Without that hands-on keyboard of real job practical experience, sometimes it just doesn't click. No matter how much you read, I mean, this whole, I won't say logical, but this whole theory thing, it just doesn't click for a lot of us there. And so I was in no different boat myself, but it took a while. But I mean, even to this day, I just like challenging myself internally. I just knew I would get it, And so then we fast forward. Let's see what this next email is. This one's long. Definitely not going to read this whole thing. This one, if we look at June 3rd, 2014, I had already gotten my CCNP. And I think in that February or March, let me see. Actually, I wasn't planning on pulling this up, but this was my very first networking job in Kandahar, or CAF, Afghanistan, with GDIT, or General Dynamics. This pay, if you calculate, I think it was 180 to 190, because there's different things, though. This is the American salary. We worked 72 hours. We got uplift on the first 40 hours, 70%. We got $10,000 end of contract bonus, and we got like $750 difference. So there's a lot of built-in hazardous pay and different comps and things like that. So it's not about the pay there, but it's to say the timing. So that was February, March when I got that job offer. So I left, went home, came back, started working there. This now is June 2014, so almost a year later. That's Kandahar CAF. This is honestly, I see Al Bateen here. This is in Dubai. So this is when I actually worked. We started living in Dubai, and then we moved to Abu Dhabi. And so the air base there is actually in Abu Dhabi. So from Dubai, that drive with the big homie Kevin, I mean, I know his last name, but I won't say it, out of Texas. He made that drive in about 58 minutes, because the cool thing about Dubai is, or really the UAE, they ain't got cops everywhere, this and that. It's just traffic cameras. And if they take a picture, you paying that, I think it was like 300 dirham or AED, and like residential areas is 600 if it was like traffic zones or in, the city. You just had to pay. You got enough points, they took your license, and you might, lose your job. But I drove home most days. Kevin drove in, and we got to Abu Dhabi. We were closer. The drive might have been just like 30 minutes, depending on who was driving. So it's pretty cool experience there. But long story short, both of these were supporting the first job was the help desk position, was supporting the Marines. These two in CAF, Kandahar, and Dubai, UAE, were supporting our USAF, or the Air Force. Craig Hamilton was actually an airman, not a contractor, but we see here that he, long story short, wanted some advice. Seems that he passed his CCNA, and that's a pretty high mark, 903 out of 1,000. And he's thinking about most of us go right into CCNP because your mind, your mentality, your studying habits, your home life, like your wife or husband or whatever understands you're in this thing. Like it's set up to just keep going for most folks. And CBT nuggets. So we see a lot of things here. And VoIP, yeah, that's what I was getting into. And I just gave him some advice there. I've taken on more in regards to VoIP. We've have a team coming in the near future to do an upgrade. My lab set up and running in the room. Yeah, I purchased a lab physical off of eBay. For memory, it was somewhere between $200 to $400. Don't remember. What were those? I saw 28. They had to be like '01s, super old. 3650 switches, might have been 3550s, and they came preloaded on a thumb drive to use. This was been a while. It wasn't UCM, it was CME, I think it's the Call Manager Express. Yeah. So this was the basics, just trying to. I did get my CCNA voice, but I started studying towards CCNP voice as well. But just when you're in a group, a crowd where everyone's thinking, not to say synergistically, but you're all about the studying, the helping each other excel. Like it's not a, I don't like saying these words, but it's not a, hey, you're dumb, you don't know anything, don't do it. That like, it's just a, we're all here to help each other out. Like that was a good time in my life because even without saying anything, you weren't trying to one up each other, but you were challenging each other, motivating each other. And that's how a lot of us built those fundamental habits. None of us got our CCIE. This is 2014. You see back here, I mean, June 30th, 2023. I should know that 2 years ago. I mean, this is 10 years. So no, people, it's when people say, why did you get it? Shout out to Celesio, interviewed me. Was it for the money? I'm like, nah, like people don't believe me, but I'm like, it'd have been about the money if I'd have got it in 2016 or 2017, when I attempted it in Dubai and in Raleigh. But you fast forward 7, 8 years, like the world's different. The job landscape here in America is different. My household life arrangement, relationship, everything's different. So like I'm 1,000,000% like, nah, it wasn't about the money. This was the grind. All these books that are over there, it's just the wanting to get it. It's like I said, just internally always challenging myself. So if it, I mean, the Lord let me live long enough. If it had been 7 failures, if Cisco let me take that test enough, I'd have got it one way or another. But for me, it was the third crack that got me the CCIE. But I'm digressing now. So to bring it back home, like I said, I just think a lot of it is back in the day, the testing format was so different. For us to get that hands-on experience to really, really click for most people, we had to have that physical gear and build it out. Virtualization was there, but it wasn't. I mean, like I said, most of us started with CBT Nuggets or Brian McGann with INE, and there were a few others. Was it IP Experts? I mean, just different things and vendors that were out, but not like the gamut or the numerous things that can help you out today. Packet Tracer in its infancy had a lot of issues, but it's always going to help anybody with switching, I think, and routing. There's certain things back then that they've overcome or obstacles. Eve NG came up, of course, and CML. We hear some folks raving about that. I forget what it used to be called. It wasn't called CML 6, 7, 8 years ago. But again, digressing here. But there's no, I ain't gonna say no way. Some people in their mind would think that, but if you were around 10 years ago and in this, I don't know anybody that would say the CCNA was harder than these daggone CCNP. That's the thing. ICND 1 and 2, you could take a composite CCNA, but it wasn't like today where they're adding a little bit of automation, a little bit of wireless. I don't know if they ask y'all data center and all of this, but within that composite exam, it's just route and switch, but you could either take it in one test or split it up. And CCNP was before me, not me, like I'm the only person in the world, but they said the CCNP used to be 4 tests. Now that part, I wasn't around then, and you see some folks with the low CCIE numbers. I think I saw a data center post by Brian McGann today speaking to having to study. Some of the gear has to be physical. You cannot virtualize it all still to this day. The ACI stuff and just different things, fabric interconnects. But I think that his number was like 8,000 or something, meaning, he probably got his, I, I just remember the story about him being like one of the youngest getting it. And at the time, not the youngest maybe, but one of the youngest. So, but long story short, like I said, the resources that we used back then are different. And that's life. That's how things change over time. That's how technology, or that's how more opportunities arise. The just So it's not to compare and contrast, but when I read that LinkedIn post, and like I said, it's not the post. Part of me thinks that the person was still studying for their CCNP, but had overcame the CCNA, and maybe it's that stuff's clicking, so they're saying that the CC. But it's the comments, just the number of people that started jumping on. I was like, but again, without knowing everybody's story, without or just a little bit of their story or the context of if they gotten theirs within the last 5 years, it's hard to say. I only saw 2 or 3 people that jumped in there. One of them said something about the route was tough, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that person. Took it 10-ish, 7-8 years ago, or more. And so it's just hard to compare two different eras. While this whole who's better, this basketball player, it'll person's mind is gonna be locked in. So I don't know that listening to me rant or give my perspective in this video is gonna change any of those folks that said the CCNA is harder. But again, I part of me understands what they were saying, but there's no way I can take myself out of body, negate already having a CCNA and CCNP, and put myself into this current, because a lot of us don't even know what the current CCNP exam looks like, or CCNA. Like, again, like, it's not about the CCIE, but what would be the need to go back and take the CCNA again, other than to make a training course or to understand what students or mentees, etc., were going through, or whatever, just for fun. Every now and then I'll hear not just Cisco, just random tests. Someone said, "Oh, I decided I don't think people are going to take the PMP or CSSP again just for giggles." But I did take the Security Plus just to see what it was like, no studying, and I won't say barely passed, but I mean, I didn't get as high a score as I thought. But like I said, with no studying or this or that, just going off of 15 plus years of knowledge, industry knowledge, I mean, I'm still glad and lucky I passed it. But sometimes we do, not to say to see if we still got it, but we challenge ourselves like that. But like I said, let me know down in the comments if I'll try to find that post. I'm sure I will, and I'll link it down below. But let me know your thoughts. New, old, I'm not saying age-wise, but within this game, in this Cisco arena, let me know, hey, how long you've been in the game, so I can know when I read your comment, or if you do comment. I don't get a lot of comments on this channel, but I can see where you're coming from when you say the CCNA is harder than CCNP. Like I said, I just want to see somebody that's truly been in it 12, 15 years and say, yes, this, I don't know. If I hit everybody with that truth serum, I don't know that they would type that. But we live in this age today of Twitter fingers, so some folks just trying to be funny. But like I said, rambling on now. If you made it to this point in the video, I always want to thank you so much for rocking in here with me. I know life has gotten the best of me lately, but I'm gonna definitely start posting a bit more. So always here for you guys. So until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves. Peace.